I hope all of us are in and we're ready to roll. I thank PMI Ghana for this invitation, especially my good friend Teresa. And I thank a young man, Mr. Andy, who's been excellent. Now, this evening, with all the talk about monitoring and evaluation in the current government, it's important that we look at some of the concepts and see where there is a congruence between project management, monitoring and evaluation, and how best these two professional tracks can really support the government in delivery of the one district, one project policy. I'm going to go to my presentation, and I hope you can follow me. And at the end of it, I will talk about some questions, try to answer them, and on an ongoing basis, start a dialogue. Essentially, what is project management and monitoring and evaluation in the context of the one district, one factory? What I'm going to explore is essentially the project management themes that intersect with M&E. And please give me a minute. I'm very new to this. So just when I go to the top of my presentation and we can begin to roll. I'm told you have to refresh your screen from time to time in order to hear me clearly. I will try to slowly to make sure that we all are in sync. So I'm looking at project monitoring and control as we know it in project management versus project monitoring and evaluation. What are the differences? What are the similarities? And I'm going to use a case study of one district, one factory, to peel these concepts and to be able to put them in the right framework and understanding for us. The objectives for tonight is to tee it up from a policy, a program, and a project space. Where exactly does monitoring and control sit? Where exactly does monitoring and evaluation sit? Then we're going to look at what is project monitoring and control and project monitoring and evaluation. I'm going to use a case study to refer to the various concepts to discussion. Then we'll look at the similarities, the differences, and then what and how do we measure project success? Because my good friends, if the projects we're working on are not successful, there's a term in the United States Marine Corps which is called pissing in the wind. If you do a great project and you spend all that money and you are on budget and you come in on time, but the project doesn't meet the needs of the beneficiaries, then I'm afraid you have pissed a lot of money in the wind, and that is going to blow away. I don't want to belay the point, but you're project management professionals, but we have to begin to put things in the right context. What is a policy? A policy is typically described as a principle or rule to guide decisions. Governments make policies. Organizations make policies. Individuals can make policies. A policy is a cause or principle of action. I can decide to have a policy of not drinking alcohol for the rest of my life. It's a policy. The government of Ghana has made rural industrialization as a policy. And as part of this policy, they want to roll it out by having one district, one factory, what I term the 1D, 1F policy. Good policy is a tool which makes administration easy because it keeps everybody on the same page. It keeps everybody on the bus. And we know who is driving the bus. And we know who sits in the front seat. A policy sets up in motion everything that we need to achieve as an organization. Policies have in them vision statements and mission statements and direction. Policy is considered as statement of intent. Where do we want to go as a country? Where do we want to go as PMI Ghana as an organization? And a policy is a commitment. It's a statement of commitment. This is what we intend to do. We want to be one of the best professional bodies in this country and have a code of ethics and be able to demonstrate that we are professionals and therefore we do our things professionally. That's the policy. Flowing from a policy is a program. When you set up this policy, there are planned sequence and combination of activities that you have within the policy framework to achieve specific goals. For example, in the one district, one factory policy, the government can choose to have a program of supporting organizations and individuals that decide to partner with it, the one district, one factory policy. Such a program could be a financial support arrangement. In this case, the program will continue for a period of time. And as long as the policy is in place, the program will be executed by the various mandate and various organizations to ensure that the policy is carried out. Programs normally involve equipment, money, personnel, and time. What is a project? This is your bacon. This is PMP professionals' baby. Exists in the project world most of the time. A project is a sequence of tasks. It has planning from beginning to an end. By time, I don't mean to be preaching to the choir, but I'm putting things in context. That's why I'm talking about a project. You guys are project professionals, therefore you know all this too well. A project has defined outcome, and I'll come back to outcome later. But in your world, deliverables are very important. And there's a budget. And there are limitations in terms of resources that are available to you in a project. The resource envelope is a very, very tight one in project management, as well as monitoring and evaluation. I'm yet to see a project that has infinite amount of budget. So looking at it from a hierarchical standpoint, a policy will be at the top. And that a policy will be a series of programs. And within these programs will be specific projects to achieve specific outcomes and impacts. I'm slipping these words in because there are M&E terms that I want us to leave here tonight with. Outcomes and impacts. So for our project, it is basically to take advantage of the government's rural industrialization policy by developing the Royal Holy Village Corn Milling Factory, Holy Village of Kokofu. The project specifically seeks to add value by milling corn to provide products, cornmeal, corn bread, and corn feed for poultry. It's important that every project has a goal. So the overarching goal for this project is really to provide sustainable employment of the Bekwai municipality, of which Kokofu is a town, business opportunities, small-scale local entrepreneurs, especially women. The products, as you see over there, are well known to those of you who have been to the United States. Nobody brings the corn dough that is milled out of the nika machines from Ghana. Instead, all of us relied and continue to rely on the good old Indian head white corn meal to give us our favorite akole, banku, and kenke. And lately, this Indian head corn meal has found its way back into Ghana. It's in powder form, and therefore it can be stored for a longer period of time. The Mazola corn oil is also in Ghana when you visit some of the specialty shops. This is cholesterol free, which means it helps us as we get older and cholesterol becomes part of the challenges we have to deal with. Now, my favorite one is the cornbread. Once again, all these products are on the local market, so it's not an importation. Essentially, this is a replacement, as I see it. When we're able to mill the corn and we're able to package it nicely, and we're able to do this cornbread, and we take the corn feed and feed the poultry, it is going to be an integrated strategy of ensuring that what we produce is what we consume. And corn is a basic staple. Porridge. Lately, they even have grits. The old oblai, it's now given a white name, grits. But all these things are now diets that are in Ghana, that has been in Ghana, and will continue to be in Ghana. So it is relevant to our industrialization policy to ensure we use the things that we have. And corn can be grown abundantly and is grown abundantly, and therefore we can use that. For this project, there will be the usual project management steps of initiating the project, planning the processes involved, executing the processes, and then when all this is going on, there is monitoring and controlling that goes on. Because in any project management, you have to manage the standards, the quality, you have to manage the time. More importantly, you have to manage the money. And therefore, you are always monitoring your supplies, your budgets, the standards. Is it being made, being used in the factory of standard? Is the foundation strong enough to withstand? And obviously, the closing process. Now, to tee off on the monitoring side, we have to be looking at the two definitions within monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring is a continuous process of gathering information about a project, a program, or a policy to see if it's running, if it's doing well, if it intends to do what it's supposed to do. And it is also a means of showing us, the stakeholders, what's going on. Are we likely to meet the targets? Are we building the factory? Or on the other hand, is it ending up becoming something else? If you set out from Accra with the intention of going to the eastern border and have lunch in Lomé, after you get in the car and it drives for 3 hours, you see a sign that says 5 kilometers. You definitely know you are not going to Lomé. So for a project to be successful, we have to constantly be monitoring. And this concept exists in project management and exists in project monitoring and evaluation. If you don't monitor your project, you're definitely going to end up in hell so fast you wouldn't even know what happened. Evaluation, on the other hand, is really looking at the benefits. It's the use of social science methods to collect and analyze and communicate data about the effectiveness of a policy, program, or project. Is it effective? Relevance. Did it really make sense to develop this project? Instead of building the corn factory with the same amount of money and with some help, engineering help, we could choose to build a nice skating rink in my holy village of Kokofu. Would that be relevant? But it will do the same thing. It will provide employment. The youth in that municipality can come and work in the ice skating rink as cashiers or whatever. Get skate instructors who can probably teach them how to do all those things. But is it relevant? Would it meet the needs of the people? So evaluation looks at an assessment in a point in time. We're doing a 5-year World Bank project. You don't want to wait till year 5 to find out that all the money that is being spent to reduce teenage pregnancy has gone to waste. So in the mid-term, which is 2.5 years into the project, you do what is called the midterm review. It's an evaluation. It's an assessment. And at each point of this monitoring and evaluation processes, certain things that you're looking for. When you are monitoring mostly outputs. Outputs, buildings, kilometers of road constructed, number of school blocks constructed. But when it comes to evaluation, you're looking at benefits. You have things such as beneficiary assessment. Did it really benefit the people? Was it effective? Did we get worth for our money? Did we spend it wisely? So why do we do monitoring and evaluation? Because we want to answer the question, what difference does an intervention make? What difference does a project make? What difference did building of Dubai make in our lives? What difference? That's what monitoring and evaluation is. You may do the project on budget. You may do it on time. You may do it by standard. But for God's sake, if it didn't meet the needs of the people that you serve, you pissed in the wind big time, but it is always looking at benefits, beneficiaries. So in monitoring and evaluation, beneficiary assessment is one of the key things. Now, at the same time, you can't get to the benefits without getting the outputs. If you wanted to change people's habits about defecating in public, you cannot really do it without building a toilet. But after you build the toilet, and suppose for some reason you decided that the toilet should be water closet, and that the requirement is for everyone to buy toilet paper, tea-roll, before they can use the toilets that are built. I can assure you that if you did this in our communities, we're going to have a major problem. Because people will just not buy tea-roll. I'm sorry, but it just won't happen. So you always have to look at the needs assessment, look at the community, and see what works. So that's what evaluation does for us. It puts things in the eyes of the beneficiary. So in monitoring and evaluation, we look at how do we do the project? Then we have inputs that go into a project, and the material resources that we do. These inputs then translate into activities. And with these activities, we get outputs, which are physical, mostly. The factory being built in Kokofu is an output. Kilometers of road being constructed in Chumuru district, output. Number of mothers attending a breastfeeding campaign in Shamar district, outputs. When these outputs are being utilized or are utilized to change behaviors, then it becomes outcomes. When the intervention leads to people's life being changed, those are outcomes. And when these outcomes are manifest over a long period of time and becomes part of the culture and part of the way of life, the raison d'etre is called an impact. Now it's made an impact. When we build this factory, yes, based on the Ghana Living Standards Survey from the Ghana Statistical Service, we see that poverty has gone down in the Bekwai municipality. Then we can say the factory has contributed to poverty reduction by providing employment opportunities, by providing business opportunities downstream women. But that's not all there is. There's a concept of attribution. Did this change come about as a result of the factory? Or whilst we were doing the factory, has decided to throw money into the place called LEAP. There are others that are there. There are other programs that are going on that could affect the poverty profile of this municipality. So you have to be able to look at the landscape and see what else is going on. There's a lot of contamination going on when you do maternal health or infant mortality projects. You have a lot of other projects going on and they intersect. Therefore, it is important when you're doing evaluation, attribution. And that is where the output-outcome relationship happens. You test the hypothesis. Before you do any M&E evaluation, you look at the theory of change. What does the research suggest? The theory of change says, if you build a factory, the youth will be employed. And when they get employed and they make some money, spend it. And when they spend it, the economic activity of that municipality will improve. Why do we believe that? There's evidence. We're not saying this because we want to think happy. It's going to work. So this resource chain, by the way, is the underlying rock of M&E. By going from input activities, output outcomes, and impact, we have gone through the whole resource chain. And tied to this resource chain is a resource framework where we will have identified the performance indicators. I'm pretty sure most of you have heard the term lately, key performance indicators. It's the same. I call them lady success. When lady success places a case on you, how do you know? What are the things that you will use to measure that people's incomes are up? How would you measure that children's health is improved in the Shamar district as a result of the breastfeeding campaign? And when we go through this, on the implementation side, project management meets monitoring and evaluation. When we're looking at the resources for a program, and we're looking at its utilization, and we're looking at the outputs, there's not a single project that is done that project managers and project management principles are not applied to get to outputs. In fact, projects, in order to get to outputs, then you are not doing projects. But to go from outputs to outcomes, because of the time horizon of change, there are times where the project manager's job just starts at the output level. The bridge was completed. The factory was built. Go home, you're done, declare victory. But didn't meet the people's needs. And that will take 3 years. The impact assessment for MIDA 1, the Millennium Development Account, was done 5 years after the project completed, or 4 years after the project completed, because you want to make sure that the change is not temporary, that the change and that when you shut the door to the project, tomorrow everybody doesn't come down back to zero. That is ingrained. If farmers' incomes have gone up and farmers' yields have gone up, it is because they have learned a skill. They have learned something about how to plant, how to use agricultural extension officers, how to use the right seeds, how to apply credit intelligently to their operations. You want these to be embedded in their DNA so that it is part and parcel of them. That's the impact, and that's the beauty of having output, outcome, and ensuring that the outcomes are long-term. In looking at this Kogufu project, a few key things that we look for. And I've talked extensively about one. But what is the relevance? Every project has to have that question. What is the relevance to us? If instead of building this factory, we decided that we're going to build a high-end Google type of an internet cafeteria, I wouldn't even call it cafe, a cafeteria of internet Google things, right out of the Google playbook, where you can sit there and do Google Docs, Google Maps, and Google everything. Would it lead to employment? Absolutely. But would that be relevant to the people? So what we think is important versus what interests the beneficiaries has to be taken into consideration. The story is told of a community someplace, some part of Ghana, that during the time of First Republic, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's time, he wanted to go give them a project. And I'm not the custodian of this, so please just allow me to indulge in my. These town folks said, we don't want anything, we just want a signboard. Apparently, it was at a junction or it was at a place. The people that know the story know it well. And actually, it's live. It happened. They want a signboard. They want everybody to know that this is our time. They don't want a water plant. They don't want, no. They want a signboard. You may go into a community and decide to drill boreholes. So this is what leads to most projects having a very, very long-term needs assessment, stakeholder engagement, finding out what the community needs. Because whatever we put in any community should be relevant. And as we drive towards this rural industrialization, I hope and I believe we are going to take these things into consideration and not just build factories for the sake of building factories, because that has risks. One is in your ballpark. This is what project managers, efficiency, resources. How was it done in time? It's done quickly, being done to standard, and you have plan to actuals. Cost. Are we in budget? Are we within the margin of error when it comes to money? So this is your bread and butter for your managers. Efficiency. And then results. And this is where project management and evaluators meet. You develop the output. Now, what has that led to? Result. Did we do the right thing? Efficiency. Did we do the thing right? Did we spend the money right? Did we do it on time, schedules? Standard quality. The evaluator is saying, I don't care about all that. people's lives. You drop 2 million condoms into this district. Did it reduce teenage pregnancy? The incidence of HIV? That's effectiveness. And we all know about change, and we know how difficult change is. When you get into the business of outcomes, when you get to measure outcomes, that's where you see if there's a change. So efficiency will put you at outputs. Activities and outputs will give you efficiency. How much was spent? What time did it take? How many meetings were held? How many field visits were done? These are all project efficiencies. Changes, outcomes, intermediate outcomes, final outcomes, it's all in effectiveness. And boy, oh boy, that has now become change. When it's ingrained, once again, when it becomes part of the DNA. I'm willing to bet you that most of us, when you visit our homes, we have bottled water. We drink bottled water at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But at the same time, when you go to our bathrooms, there's no bottled water for us to brush our teeth. And the teeth that's in the bathroom, not the same tongue and teeth that's in our dining room. Bottled water. It is that change that's difficult to manifest. People who are not used to washing their hands after they go to the loo, if you build this near a public place of convenience and you put soap, you will find out that on observation, unobtrusive, of course, you don't let them see that you're watching them. Get there, and if they are not habitual hand washers, they'll just get there and use their hands to drink water from the tap. Why buy sachet water for 15 pesos or whatever they call the cost nowadays? Once there's free water. When you draw him or his attention to the fact that he's not washed his hands, he will have a plausible excuse. Why not? So, my good friends, our projects are supposed to lead to changes in our behaviors and improvements in our lives. So, if we are running a project and we are not evaluating at the changes and we're stopping at outputs, I'm afraid we're not going too far. We're not going far enough. And lately, sustainability has taken on a whole new meaning because the resources are now depleted. They're not even being depleted, they are now depleted. Streams that you and I used to swim in, I'm assuming you're old enough, are now dry. So when we're doing projects, there's a new dimension. Sustainability is looking at the natural environment. Is the project in sync? Is it leading to healthy communities? And does it provide economic vitality? It is one thing to talk about a project being completed and outputs and outcomes and impacts. It is a totally different subject when you come to the project existing in a natural environment, economic vitality, and ensuring that there are healthy communities. Documented industrial accidents all over the world. Thank God we've been safe so far from some of these extremely bad catastrophes. The Bhopal incident in India comes to mind. The Union Carbide plant in Bhopal, India. It's a nice plant, provided employment. But bad gas seeped from the plant, got into the communities, and over 3,000 people died overnight. But Chernobyl and all these other things. Love Canal in the US of all places. Doing projects. Now there's a higher threshold. Sustainability. Factory. Where 5 years from now, because we're not handling the industrial waste, lead to our children getting leukemia. All these things have now become extremely important. It is not only economic value, also a health value and a natural environment value. Projects have to be in sync. Now, what are the similarities between monitoring and evaluation and monitoring and control? Involve project monitoring. If you're doing project management, you have to monitor the time, the money that is spent, and obviously the outputs that come out. The quality is what it was supposed to be. Similarly, in any M&E project or program or policy for that matter, there is always continuous collection of data. Targets are met, and when they are not met, they explain why not. And the motivation for monitoring is simple. If you do not monitor, if you're going to Lomi and you do not check the driver who's driving you and you fall asleep and the person makes the wrong turn, you will be 5 miles away from Takrady before you realize you're on the wrong journey. So monitoring involves the collecting continuously to ensure that you are on the right journey. Monitoring, it doesn't stop. Even before you start the project, you are collecting data. All exams. Before you even put in the intervention, you want to see what else is out there. When the project is going on, oh boy, you are collecting data like a maniac. As the project is ending, you're collecting data. Because monitoring provides evidence to answer the question, was it done right? Are we planting the corn? Are we creating avenues where the farmer-based organizations in the Bekwai municipality will supply us corn? Are we dealing with the district Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Directorate, to ensure that the right seeds are coming in for the maize? Are we going to be able to have popcorn coming out of this one? Was it done right? When you look at monitoring and control in the project management space, it is about controlling project implementation activities and ensuring that things are done right. Once again, doing it right. It emphasizes fixing what is not done right. If there are deviations, we take care of it. When you're building a house and you realize that the wall looks funny, whoever you have working with you takes a look, does some measurements and says, no, we got to break this one, we got to do something differently. It is all about doing it right, fixing it right. Corrective action more than why. We don't ask why, done right. So let's do it right. The why is not an investigative why. When you come to evaluation, that's where there are differences. And these differences are very, very pronounced. Evaluation seeks to answer the question, what difference? Did it make any difference? Did it give us a bang for our money? $125,000 for them to build this factory. Did it give us what we were looking for? Or we've just built another boondoggle that sits there and collects dust because nobody knows how to operate a machine. Or a machine part breaks and it takes 3 months to order it from Russia. It emphasizes benefits. And when you get to asking was the right thing done, you got to go through all of measurement. Was it relevant? Was it efficient? Was it effective? Did it have an impact? And is it sustainable? REIS. You're doing, was it done right? It actually goes the whole gamut. Because when you're doing an evaluation, you have to look at the beneficiary side and say, are you happy with the factory? No. That's one part of it. How was the project also done right? It's part of evaluation. We call it process evaluation. The implementation process is done. A couple of times I've done it, have to go and talk to the PCU, project control unit, coordinating unit, sitting at the ministry. That's where you look at dollar spent, burn rate. It's all process. The project management part, you still evaluate it. You still want to make sure that whether it was done right or not done right, was the right thing done. And then you analyze unintended results. The concept of unintended consequences. You build an internet cafe in a community, and all of a sudden, the young people in that community are now Sakawa wizards. Was that why you built it? Or was that why it was built? No. But that is part of the challenge. of looking at a project and ensuring that in a holistic manner, it meets challenges. In this corn factory, we can decide to build a cigarette packaging plant. We bring the tobacco from someplace, cut it, go through the process, and package it, and then export it to some fancy place and get foreign exchange. Is it an export-oriented factory? Absolutely. Would that bring some benefit? You bet you. But look at the unintended consequences or the potential unintended consequences. If you did this, I can assure you that within a period of 2 years, 12-year-olds will be smoking in that community. If you don't believe me, go to North Carolina. That's where all the tobacco companies are, and smoking rate is high. Simple as that. When you work in a place and they produce a product, you use it. You build an alcoholic factory in a place, called alcoholic beverage factory in a place, people will drink. It's not even research, it's common sense. So we look at causality, or causal swap, it's cause and effect relationship when we're doing evaluations. I've got 8 minutes to go and I'm going to wrap up. So some of the questions I have here are, should M&E be part of project management or vice versa? That's the elephant in the China shop question. My humble opinion is they are one and the same. They coexist. M&E professionals and project management professionals have a common goal of delivering good projects, programs, and policies, professional input. How should a project management professional approach the evaluation aspect of a project? Now that you're armed with enough evaluation discussion, I would encourage project managers to ask to be present in most of these evaluation conversations. Because as project managers, you are the conduit through which the outcomes are being manifested. If you don't deliver outputs, evaluators have no outcomes to go and measure. And the same. This is not the chicken before the egg. Project managers and evaluators must coexist and cohabitate and co-deliver with the new 1D, 1F rural industrialization policy that the government has established. I will challenge all of us to be part of the conversation. In the absence of knowledge, we are all going to be victims of not providing professional input. My good friends, in terms of the one district, one factory, the best strategy to ensure project management is tightly aligned with M&E is to deliver joint results. It's not competing professions, it is complementary professions. And I invite all of you to be a part and parcel of providing professional help. I thank you very kindly for your time, and I thank you, Andy, for ensuring that I have been able to do this. And I'm quite grateful to you, Teresa, my good friend. See you and have a pleasant evening. Take care, everyone. If you want to get in touch with me, this is where I live. I'm talking to you from Gimpa. Nowadays, you can't use Galamsey, so I'm not a Galamsey guy. I'm an adjunct lecturer here in monitoring and evaluation and performance measurement systems. Thank you once again, and God bless you.